First Contact Protocols. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of thousands of alien text fragments floating in the air around her. After 3 months of working with the xenoarchaeology team on Mars, they had finally managed to decode the ancient archive they'd discovered buried 2 kilometers beneath the red planet's surface. "Play it again," she commanded softly. The AI obliged, and the alien message, now translated into English, began to scroll through the air once more. "Woyarnang. This archive contains vital information about the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. We, the collective of the 7 suns, leave this record as our final act before our civilization enters permanent hibernation. We hope that future spacefaring races will heed our warning about the species designated as ST-3301, known in their own language as humans." Sarah had read the message hundreds of times now, but it still sent a chill down her spine. The archive had been left by a civilization that had apparently achieved interstellar travel millions of years before humans had even evolved on Earth, and they had been terrified of humanity's potential. Dr. Chen, her assistant Marcus, appeared in the doorway of the research module. "The UN Security Council is ready for your briefing." Sarah nodded, gathering her thoughts. In the 3 months since they'd discovered the archive, similar sites have been found on Venus, Europa, and in the asteroid belt. All contain variations of the same warning, left by different alien civilizations across spans of millions of years, all of them speaking of humanity with a mixture of fear and awe. The holographic display in front of her expanded, showing the faces of the Security Council members arranged in a virtual semicircle. Sarah took a deep breath and began. "Distinguished members of the Council, what I'm about to share will fundamentally change our understanding of humanity's place in the universe. We've now confirmed that the Mars archive is one of at least 12 similar sites in our solar system, left by different alien civilizations over a period spanning roughly 40 million years." She gestured, and the translated warnings appeared before each council member. These civilizations, each far more advanced than our own, all left the same essential message: beware of humans. What makes this particularly fascinating is that most of these warnings were left long before humans had evolved on Earth. These species weren't warning about what we had done, they were warning about what we would become. The Russian representative leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, are you suggesting these aliens could predict the future?" "Not exactly," Sarah replied. "Based on our analysis, they had developed sophisticated models for predicting the evolution of intelligent life. They saw the potential in our earliest mammalian ancestors. They recognized something in our evolutionary path that frightened them." The Chinese representative spoke next. "And what exactly did they fear?" Sarah brought up a new set of translations. "According to the archives, they feared our adaptability, our creativity, our ability to learn and change faster than any species they'd encountered. One passage describes humans as temporal predators, beings who can compress millions of years of evolution into mere centuries through sheer force of will and imagination." "The archives contain detailed observations of Earth from various periods," she continued. "They watched us develop tools, language, agriculture. They saw us split the atom, master electricity, begin to understand quantum mechanics, and what terrified them most was the speed at which we did it all." The American representative frowned. "But if they were so advanced and so afraid of what we'd become, why didn't they simply eliminate us before we developed these capabilities?" Sarah smiled. "That's perhaps the most fascinating part. They tried, or at least some of them did. The archives record multiple attempts to interfere with human development: climate modifications, engineered diseases, artificial natural disasters. But humanity survived each attempt, adapted, grew stronger. Eventually, the watching civilizations came to a startling conclusion. Trying to stop humanity's advancement was more dangerous than allowing it to proceed naturally." She brought up one final translation, this one from the most recent archive they'd discovered. The archives contain detailed observations of Earth from various periods, she continued. They watched us develop tools, language, agriculture. They saw us split the atom, master electricity, begin to understand quantum mechanics, and what terrified them most was the speed at which we did it all. The American representative frowned. But if they were so advanced and so afraid of what we'd become, why didn't they simply eliminate us before we developed these capabilities? Sarah smiled. That's perhaps the most fascinating part. They tried. Or at least some of them did. The archives record multiple attempts to interfere with human development, climate modifications, engineered diseases, artificial natural disasters. But humanity survived each attempt, adapted, grew stronger. Eventually, the watching civilizations came to a startling conclusion. Trying to stop humanity's advancement was more dangerous than allowing it to proceed naturally. She brought up one final translation, this one from the most recent archive they discovered. To those who find this warning, do not repeat our mistakes. We tried to cage a force of nature, to contain a species that defies containment. We failed, and in failing, we learned a crucial truth. Humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their intelligence, but their inexhaustible ability to face the impossible and find a way forward. They are not a species to be feared or controlled, but one to be welcomed as equals when they finally reach the stars. For any civilization advanced enough to find this message, know this: humanity will have already surpassed your expectations and prepared for your arrival. The room fell silent as the council members absorbed the implications. Finally, the Secretary General spoke. Dr. Chen, what do you recommend we do with this information? Sarah looked at each council member in turn. These archives aren't just warnings about humanity. They're a mirror showing us how truly extraordinary our species is. I recommend we use this knowledge not to fear our potential, but to ensure we live up to it. These ancient civilizations saw something remarkable in humanity's future. It's time we saw it too. As the briefing concluded, Sarah returned to the Mars Archive chamber. The holographic warnings continued their endless dance through the air, but now they seemed less ominous. They were not just warnings, she realized, but a challenge. A challenge to become the species these ancient civilizations had seen in humanity's future. Marcus appeared at her side. Another transmission coming in from the Venus team, he said, holding out a tablet. They'd found something else. Sarah took the tablet, her eyes widening as she read the new discovery. The ancient civilizations hadn't just left warnings. They'd left a map to where they'd gone, waiting for humanity to be ready to follow. She looked up at the Martian sky through the dome of the research station, where the first stars of evening were becoming visible. Somewhere out there, the descendants of those ancient civilizations were waiting to see if humanity would prove them right, not in their fears, but in their hopes. Send a message to the council, she told Marcus. Tell them we're just getting started. The Silent Watchers, High Observer Ixel of the Galactic Confederation, floated in the observation chamber, their crystalline form refracting the light from 1,000 monitoring stations. Each station tracked a different aspect of human development, and lately, every single one of them had been setting off alerts. Show me the technological progression curve again, Ixel commanded. The chamber's AI complied, projecting a holographic graph that filled the space around them. The line representing human advancement started slowly, remaining almost flat for thousands of years, then began to curve upward with the advent of agriculture. At the Industrial Revolution, it shot upward at an angle that made most species' advancement curves look flat in comparison. Impossible, muttered First Analyst Venn, their metal alloy body humming with concern. No species should be able to maintain this rate of advancement without destroying themselves. It defies every model we've developed over the last million years. Ixel's crystalline structure vibrated in agreement. The Confederation had been watching Earth since humans first began using tools, expecting them to follow the same patterns as every other intelligent species they'd observed. But humans had proven exceptionally stubborn about defying expectations. "Show me the adaptation response times," Ixel ordered. Another display materialized, showing how quickly various species adapted to environmental challenges. The human line was nearly vertical. When we introduced the modified viral strain to test their medical response, Venn noted they developed a vaccine in less than a year. It took the Xraxians, with their superior technology, over a decade to achieve the same thing. And when we subtly altered their planet's magnetic field to test their technological resilience, Ixel asked, already knowing the answer. They not only detected our interference, but developed shielding technology we hadn't anticipated. Some of their theoretical physicists even began writing papers about potential military applications of magnetic field manipulation. They turned our test into a weapon before we could even complete. Ixel's crystal matrix pulsed with patterns of deep concern. The chamber's displays showed countless similar examples. When faced with a problem, humans didn't just solve it. They turned the solution into a stepping stone for further advancement. "Show me the quantum computing progress," Ixel requested. The display shifted, and even Venn's metallic form seemed to shudder. "They've accomplished in decades what took us centuries," Venn observed. "And their approach, it's completely unorthodox. While we carefully built our quantum systems using proven methodologies, they simply threw different approaches at the problem until something worked. Their solutions are inelegant, sometimes barely theoretical sound, but undeniably effective." Ixel absorbed this information, their crystalline thoughts refracting through countless facets of analysis. What about the social development index? This display was perhaps the most concerning of all. Unlike most species, which develop technology and social structures at roughly equal rates, humans showed massive disparities. They could be simultaneously capable of extraordinary cooperation and devastating conflict. They created works of art that moved even non-human observers to emotional responses, while also developing weapons of terrifying destructive power. "They're an anomaly," Venn stated flatly. "Every predictive model we've developed breaks down when applied to human advancement. They simply don't follow the rules." "Elaborate," Ixel commanded. "Most species advance in a linear fashion. They discover fire, develop tools, create agriculture, and so on. Each step follows logically from the last. Humans, they make intuitive leaps. They'll completely skip what we consider crucial developmental stages, then circle back and develop those technologies later simply out of curiosity." Ixel's form sparkled with sudden insight. "They don't think like we do. We see advancement as a ladder to be climbed one rung at a time. They see it as a web, making connections we wouldn't even consider possible." "Precisely," Venn agreed. "And that makes them incredibly dangerous. We can't predict what they'll do next, because they don't follow any logical progression. They might spend centuries without significant advancement in space travel, then suddenly develop faster-than-light technology because someone made an unexpected connection between quantum physics and their ancient myths." The chamber's displays suddenly shifted, showing new data from Earth. Ixel and Venn observed in stunned silence as humans began accessing the ancient archives they'd discovered on Mars. "They weren't supposed to find those for at least another century," Venn said, their metallic voice carrying an unmistakable note of alarm. "The archives were buried 2 kilometers deep in solid rock. They've been systematically exploring their entire solar system," Ixel noted. "They didn't just stumble upon the archives. They were looking for them. Somehow, they knew something was there to be found." "High Observer," Venn's voice became urgent. "They're already decoding the warnings. They're learning about us, about the Confederation, about all the species that came before." Ixel's crystalline form pulsed with rapid calculations. "How are they reacting to the knowledge that they've been observed and tested for centuries?" "That's the most remarkable part," Venn replied, bringing up new data streams. "They're not responding with fear or anger as we predicted. They're excited. They see the warnings as a challenge, the tests as opportunities. They're already using the knowledge gained from the archives to advance their technology even faster." Show me their current projects, Ixel commanded. The displays shifted again, showing thousands of human research initiatives, quantum teleportation experiments, gravity manipulation studies, consciousness transfer theories, dark matter harnessing attempts, each one pushing the boundaries of what the Confederation had deemed possible for their current technological level. They're not just advancing, Ixel realized, their crystal matrix vibrating with a mix of awe and apprehension. They're accelerating. The discovery of the archives isn't slowing them down or frightening them. It's inspiring them to move even faster. High Observer, Ven's voice carried a note of genuine fear now. What do we do? The containment protocols have failed. The warning archives have been compromised. And now they know they're being watched. Ixel's form shimmered as they processed all the implications. We don't do anything, they finally decided. We continue to observe, but we cease all testing and interference. The ancient warnings were right. Attempting to control or contain humanity only makes them stronger. And if they develop faster than light travel, if they join the galactic community before we're ready. Ixel's crystal structure emanated patterns that in their species passed for ironic amusement. Ready? Look at these advancement curves again, First Analyst. The real question isn't whether we'll be ready for them. It's whether we're ready to admit that they've probably already surpassed us in ways we haven't even imagined yet. As if to emphasize this point, every monitoring station suddenly went dark. In the silence of the observation chamber, a single human voice came through their communication system. Hello, Watchers. We see you too. Shall we talk? Breaking point. Admiral Helena Rodriguez stood in the heart of Earth's Quantum Defense Center, watching as holographic displays showed the Confederation fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The massive alien ships, each one larger than Earth's largest city, emerged into normal space like crystalline leviathans against the void. Right on schedule, she murmured, nodding to her command staff. Just like Dr. Chen predicted from the archive data. The Confederation had spent centuries watching humanity. Now humanity had spent months watching them back, using the very monitoring systems the aliens had placed throughout the solar system. Every piece of alien technology they discovered had been studied, reverse engineered, and improved upon with humanity's characteristic speed and creativity. Admiral, her quantum communications officer called out, "We're receiving their transmission." The holographic display shifted, showing High Observer Ixel's crystalline form. The alien's voice resonated through the command center speakers, translated in real time by AI systems humanity had developed specifically for this moment. Species designation: human. Your rapid advancement and unauthorized access of restricted archives has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. You will cease all technological development and submit to Confederation oversight or face immediate neutralization. Helena allowed herself a small smile. The Confederation was playing right into their hands, exactly as the human leadership had hoped they would. She nodded to her communications officer. "This is Admiral Helena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. We've been expecting you." The crystalline alien's form flickered with what their intelligence suggested was surprise. "You cannot have been expecting us. Our arrival was planned with absolute secrecy. Your arrival was predicted with 99.9% accuracy using the very same modeling systems you used to study us," Helena replied. "The only variable was whether you would choose diplomatic contact or attempted subjugation. Unfortunately, you've chosen the latter." The command center's displays showed the Confederation fleet moving into attack formation. Their ships were impressive, the product of millions of years of careful, methodical development. But that same methodical approach had made them predictable. "You have no defensive capabilities that could possibly resist our fleet," Ixel stated. "Our technological superiority is absolute." Helena's smile widened slightly. "About that, we've made some improvements to your designs." On her signal, Earth's quantum defense grid activated. Thousands of satellites, seemingly innocent weather and communication stations, transformed. The technology was based on Confederation designs found in the archives, but humanity had taken those designs in directions the aliens had never imagined. Impossible. Ixal's voice carried genuine shock. You cannot have developed quantum field technology. Your civilization is centuries away from such capabilities. By your models, yes, Helena agreed. But we stopped following your models a long time ago. While you were watching us, categorizing us, trying to fit us into your understanding of how species should develop, we were doing what humans do best, imagining possibilities you never considered. The Confederation fleet's weapons powered up, exotic energy signatures flaring against the darkness of space. But before they could fire, Earth's defense grid created something unprecedented. A quantum entanglement field encompassing the entire solar system. What is this? Ixal demanded. What have you done? We've linked every particle in this region of space, Helena explained. Your weapons, your ships, your very atoms are now quantum entangled with our defense systems. If you fire upon us, the entanglement cascade will affect your fleet as much as it affects us. Mutual assured destruction, but on a quantum level. The displays showed chaos erupting through the Confederation fleet as they realized the implications. Their weapons, designed to operate on principles of carefully controlled quantum states, were now unusable. Every aggressive action they might take would rebound upon them through the entanglement field. This is not possible, Ixal insisted. You cannot have advanced so far so quickly. Our models. Your models are based on logical, linear progression, Helena interrupted. But human advancement isn't logical or linear. We make intuitive leaps. We see connections where others see only chaos. We imagine possibilities before we fully understand them. Then we figure out how to make them work. She gestured at the displays showing the entanglement field. This technology, we developed it because one of our quantum physicists was inspired by an ancient human philosophy text about the interconnectedness of all things. She didn't know if it was possible, but she imagined it could be. Then we made it possible. The Confederation fleet hung motionless in space, their carefully planned attack rendered useless by human innovation. Helena could almost feel their confusion, their inability to comprehend how their superior technology had been so thoroughly countered. You have a choice, High Observer, she continued. You can retreat, return to the Confederation, and continue to watch us advance from a distance, or you can accept that your models were wrong. Humanity isn't a threat to galactic stability. We're the next step in galactic evolution. We don't follow the rules because we're still writing new ones. The command center fell silent as they waited for the Confederation's response. The fate of human-alien relations hung in the balance, but Helena wasn't worried. She'd seen the data from the archives. Read the warnings left by ancient civilizations. They hadn't been warnings of humanity's destructive potential. They'd been warnings about the futility of trying to contain human potential. Finally, Ixal spoke again, their crystalline form pulsing with new patterns that the human AI translated as a mixture of resignation and curiosity. Perhaps, the alien admitted, it is time for the Confederation to update its models. Helena nodded. We'll help you with that. After all, imagination is what we do best. The human factor. First Analyst Ven's metallic form vibrated with distress as they reviewed the latest reports from the confrontation in the Sol system. The Confederation's Emergency Council chamber, normally a model of ordered discourse, had descended into chaos. They'd weaponized our own monitoring systems, a quantum elder announced, their energy form flickering with agitation. Every sensor network we placed to observe them has been reprogrammed. They're not just watching us back. They're using our own technology to predict our movements. That's impossible, another council member insisted. The encryption on those systems was based on mathematical principles beyond their current. They didn't break the encryption, Ven interrupted, their analysis protocols finally completing. They wrote new encryption around it. Instead of trying to understand our code, they simply created a higher-order system that made our security irrelevant. High Observer Ixal's crystalline form, pulsed with patterns that their species used to indicate deep concern. The displays around them showed hundreds of Confederation ships, now effectively paralyzed by the humans' quantum entanglement field. "Show me their development timeline again," Ixal commanded. From the moment they discovered the first archive to now, the data streamed through the chamber. In just months, humans had not only decoded the ancient warnings, but had taken the fragments of technological information contained within them and extrapolated entirely new branches of science. Where the Confederation saw limitations, humans saw possibilities. "They don't think like us," Venn realized, their vocal synthesizers humming with a new understanding. "When we develop technology, we build upon established principles, proven theories. Humans, they imagine what might be possible, then work backward to make it reality." "Precisely," a new voice agreed. The council chamber's displays suddenly shifted, showing Dr. Sarah Chen, the human xenorchaeologist who had first decoded the Mars archive. Somehow, she had gained access to their secure communications. "Dr. Chen," Ixal acknowledged, their tone carrying both frustration and curiosity. "You continue to exceed our expectations." "That's rather the point, isn't it?" Sarah replied. "Your entire civilization is built on expectations, on rules and models and careful progression. But humanity's greatest strength is our ability to imagine beyond what's expected." The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices as various members tried to comprehend how their most secure facility had been breached. Sarah waited patiently until they quieted. "While you were debating how to contain us," she continued, "we were studying you, your technology, your thought patterns, your societal structures. We found something fascinating. You've become trapped by your own advancement." "Explain," Ixal commanded, their crystalline form showing patterns of intense interest. "You've developed so far, so carefully that you've lost the ability to make intuitive leaps. Every advancement must follow logically from what came before. But that's not how breakthrough innovations happen. True leaps forward come from imagination, from asking what if instead of what is." Venn's analysis protocols were running at maximum capacity, trying to process this perspective. "But your methods are chaotic, unpredictable. The potential for catastrophic failure is exactly what drives us forward," Sarah finished. "We learn from our failures. We adapt. We try new approaches. While you were watching us advance through different technological ages, you missed the most important pattern. We never stop reimagining what's possible." The displays showed new data. Humans had already developed theoretical frameworks for technologies the Confederation had deemed impossible. They weren't just copying alien technology. They were reinventing it, combining it with human insights in ways that defied conventional understanding. "Your quantum entanglement field," Ixal noted, "it shouldn't be possible at this scale." "According to your models, no," Sarah agreed. "But we didn't check whether it was possible before we imagined it. We simply asked ourselves what we would need to make it work, then solved each problem as we encountered it." "And now?" Venn asked, their metallic form resonating with what might have been respect. "Now you have a choice," Sarah replied. "You can continue trying to force us into your models of how species should develop, or you can try something new. You can learn from us, as we've learned from you." The council chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. The Confederation had spent millions of years advancing carefully, methodically, always building on what came before. But in doing so, they had lost something essential: the ability to imagine beyond their limitations. The ancient warnings, Ixal realized, their crystal matrix pulsing with new understanding. They weren't just about humanity's potential for destruction. They were about your potential to change everything, including us. Sarah nodded. Every species that left those warnings had reached the same conclusion. They didn't go extinct trying to stop us. They went into hibernation waiting for us. They saw in humanity something the Confederation has forgotten: the power of unrestricted imagination. "And now?" Venn asked. Now we offer you what we've offered every other species that's tried to contain us, the chance to grow beyond your own limitations. Your technology is impressive, but it's stable, predictable. Ours is chaotic, dynamic, constantly evolving. Together, we could achieve things neither of us could imagine alone. The council chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. The fear and confusion were giving way to something new, curiosity. For the first time in countless generations, the Confederation was facing something their models couldn't predict, couldn't control. And some of them were beginning to realize that might not be such a bad thing. A new understanding. 1 year after the confrontation in the Sol system, the Great Hall of the Confederation Assembly hummed with an energy it hadn't known in millennia. Representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to witness something unprecedented, the formal integration of humanity into galactic society, not as a supervised species, but as equals. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of the hall, her small human form dwarfed by the varied shapes of alien delegates. Beside her, Admiral Helena Rodriguez represented Earth's military interests, while High Observer Ixel and First Analyst Ven spoke for the Confederation. The contrast between them was striking. The solid presence of the humans against Ixel's crystalline structure and Ven's metallic form. We gather today, Ixel's voice resonated through the hall, to acknowledge a truth that many of us fought to deny, that the path of advancement is not a single road, but a web of infinite possibilities. The hall's displays showed the changes of the past year. Confederation worlds that had initially feared humanity's chaos have begun to embrace it. The combination of human creativity with Confederation technology had led to breakthroughs that neither civilization could have achieved alone. When we first discovered your warnings in our solar system, Sarah addressed the assembly. We thought we were reading about our past. Instead, we were reading about our shared future. The displays shifted to show the awakening. Across the galaxy, ancient species were emerging from hibernation. The civilizations that had left the warnings were returning, drawn out by the news that humanity had finally reached the stars. They waited for us, Helena added, her military uniform gleaming under the hall's lights. Not because they feared us, but because they saw in humanity something the galaxy had lost. The ability to imagine beyond the possible. Ven's metallic form hummed in agreement. In 1 year of cooperation, humanity has helped us break through technological barriers we'd accepted as absolute for millions of years, not through superior science, but through superior imagination. The displays showed some of these breakthroughs. Quantum tunneling technology that allowed instant communication across any distance. Environmental restoration projects that could heal damaged planets in decades rather than millennia. Medical advances that blended Confederation biotechnology with human intuition to cure diseases thought incurable. But perhaps more importantly, Ixel continued, humans have taught us to question our assumptions, to look beyond our models and ask not what is possible, but what could be possible. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. We've learned as much from you as you have from us. Your wisdom, your patience, your understanding of the deep patterns of space and time. These are things humanity could have taken centuries to discover on our own. The ancient warnings were right, Helena added. Humanity is dangerous. Dangerous to stagnation, to artificial limitations, to the idea that any civilization can stop advancing, stop imagining, stop dreaming. The hall's displays showed new images, human children learning from Confederation teachers, alien students embracing human methods of creative problem-solving, joint research teams making discoveries that were transforming understanding of the universe itself. Today, Ixel announced, we formally recognize humanity not just as equals, but as teachers. They have shown us that true advancement comes not from following established paths, but from imagining new ones. Ven's form resonated with agreement. The species that left those warnings knew this. They saw in humanity's future not just technological advancement, but a fundamental shift in how civilizations could grow and learn. Sarah smiled, looking around at the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. Those ancient species didn't go into hibernation to hide from us. They went to sleep so they could wake up to a galaxy transformed by human imagination. And now that transformation has begun. The displays showed the future they were building together. Exploration ships crewed by humans and aliens, research stations where different species combined their unique perspectives to solve universal problems, colonies where civilizations that had once feared each other now lived and worked as one. The warnings were never meant to prevent contact with humanity, Ixel concluded. They were meant to ensure that when contact happened, we would be ready to learn from them instead of trying to control them. Helena nodded. And now we move forward together, not as watchers and watched, not as teachers and students, but as partners in the greatest adventure any of our species has ever undertaken. The exploration of possibility itself, Sarah finished. As the assembly hall erupted in a chorus of approval expressed in 1,000 different ways, the displays showed one final image. The original warning carved into the surface of Mars, now transformed into a memorial. Beneath the ancient text, a new message had been added in every language of the Confederation. Here marks the beginning of a new age, where the wisdom of the ancient and the imagination of the young have come together to reach for the impossible. The warnings have been heard. The Watchers have become partners. And humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their strength, but their unshakable belief that tomorrow can always be better than today. The assembly hall's lights dimmed, but the hope they had kindled continued to shine. Across the galaxy, civilization after civilization was awakening to find their greatest fears had become their greatest allies. The age of watching was over. The age of imagination had begun. And somewhere, in the depths of space, other civilizations were leaving new messages for those who would follow. No longer warnings, but invitations. Invitations to join a galaxy where the only limit was what you could imagine, and where humanity had shown that even that limit could be broken.